Hey Russ, how are you doing today?
Hi, Charles. How are you?
So over the course of the next couple of days, you and I are going to be sitting down talking about Morgan dollars. The last time we did this, we had a tremendous response.
Yeah.
More than 100,000 people watched us talk about grading Morgan dollars and what we were looking for in the grade. But we had this conversation about a month or so ago, and you're like, Charles, like we should come up with a 50 coin Morgan dollar set that any collector can assemble and be proud of. And you like started doing the work, figuring out what coins would be in that list, and we finally got that list done. And it's 50 coins. It's a representative set of coins from all the five mints of Strug Morgan dollars. So that's
Hmm.
Philadelphia, New Orleans, San Francisco, and you have the Denver Mint for 1 year, and the Carson City Mint, of course. Who could forget it?
Right.
And so we put this 50 coin set together. Um, any collector who can buy, if you can put a Silver Eagle set together, you can put this set together, and it spans the beginning of the Morgan Dollar series all the way to the very end in 1921. So I'm really excited about it. I know, like from my own experience, I've done quite a bit of research as a writer on Morgan dollars, and I've certainly purchased my fair share of them. You have been a dealer and a market analyst, and one of the biggest buyers in the country for rare coins. So your experience with Morgan dollars is probably unquestioned. But what makes the Morgan dollar such an interesting coin for you?
Its availability, its size, um, that those two features actually spell out popularity. Um, I think that the ability to look through so many different coins to try and find that right coin that appeals to you is also uh, part of its popularity. Where if you're collecting seeded dimes, you may not have too many alternatives. When you find it, that one particular coin, you may not find another one for a long time. So you end up buying it whether you like it or not. With dollars, you could be more selective. And, I think that our first podcast went into greater detail and grades and things like that and what to look for on a coin surface so that you can be picky. The Morgan Dollar series offers the ability to pick and choose, and I think that that's what kind of enhances the hunt.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can take some series. You can take like gold five libs or maybe early copper coins, and you really don't have like the ability to really pick what is the perfect coin for the grade that you want to buy. I mean, sometimes what's
Yeah,
available is all that's available, right? But
right.
Morgan dollars is it's really different. I mean, if you look at it under the context that this essentially was America's first silver bullion coin program. I mean, there's a lot of parallels between the Morgan dollar and the American Silver Eagle.
Yeah.
Now they didn't. That was essentially an unintentional similarity. The creators of the silver dollar program, who wanted to bring it back from the dead, they thought that the working man was going to be spending these coins and preferring these coins to gold. And it turned out that they were essentially pulling silver ore out of the ground in the western states, minting them into coins and throwing them back underground in these vaults because people weren't spending them. And so from a government program, it was a major boondoggle. And that's, as collectors, we're sort of grateful for that, right? Because that meant that an abundant number of these coins survived and mint state. But when we say that, the Morgan dollar is like fundamentally different than an American Silver Eagle in the sense that the American Silver Eagles are essentially not struck to be circulated. They're struck with probably a higher level of precision. Even the bullion strikes that they're going to typically grade in the upper register of the mint state grades. We get
Hmm.
spoiled as people in the market seeing 69s and 70s, but 69s and 70s represent the coins that pass through the minimum grade process and get put in those holders. But the more typically a silver eagle is going to be between 67 and 70. Morgan
Right.
dollars were really never created with that kind of care. They weren't created on dies that like were thrown out the second something went wrong with them. Um, and so what you see with Morgan dollars, even in the mid-state areas, as we discussed, is real big differences in strike, real big differences in die state. You will have coins with cracks and die imperfections. You'll of course you'll have the natural tarnish that comes with their exposure to sulfide and all this. So you'll get colorful coins or coins with like variegated dapple toning, and then sometimes
Dapple toning. I
yeah,
like it.
sometimes you get these blast white coins like the ones I have here,
Yeah.
that you sent me from your business. But you know they are really all over the place, and they're really, as a collector, because you have those choices, you can make that choice early on. If you want a brilliant blast white 50 coin set, you can do that. If you want a set with natural, let's just call it natural toning, or you can go for that. Of course, if it's really attractive, you're going to pay more. But
Sure.
you have all sorts of different decisions that you make on a coin by coin basis.
And more importantly, too, think about this: is that if you're going to a coin show and you're expecting to find dollars there, you're going to be rewarded. But if you go into a coin show, and to use your example of finding a $5 Liberty or something like that, maybe from 1867, chances are you're not going to even see one in the 1860s. So I think that's what the popularity kind of evolves into, is that you're never going to be disappointed, and it's always a challenge.
That's right. And so, like I said, we mentioned we have we put together our 50 set. We're going to call it the Augustine Morgan 50 coin Morgan dollar set. We'll have a checklist and a printout for you, complete
Yeah.
with some vintages, a space for you to write your own notes, which we invite you to actually print it out as you're watching our video. And if anything we say rises to the level where you think you want to keep track of that, maybe put that down. But go out there, build your 50 coin set. And I think after buying 50 coins, I think you will know this series well enough to maybe adventure out into different areas of it, whether that's searching for VAMs or looking for some PLs or dimples, or maybe getting some of the tougher dates. I think, but once you get 50 coins under your belt, then you can decide, is it time to take my pursuit up to these $300 to $1,000 coins? So we're gonna focus here, I think, on the coins in the 63 level. But for every coin that we're going to talk about today, 63 and 64 are going to be your typical grades. There's a little premium for 64, but you don't usually start to double or more of the price until you get to 5 and above. So
Right.
threes, like, let's just say three's a good wholesome grade. That's choice uncirculated. We prefer that you use PCGS or NGC. At the moment, there will be a CAC grading service within weeks of this video being posted. I anticipate that that's going to take some time for you to really see how that develops, although there are PCGS and NGC coins with CAC stickers on them in abundance, and you might want to look at those if you want to have two opinions on your coin grade, the one when you're buying your coin. All right, so Russ, let's start it off. We're going to talk today about the Philadelphia set, which is 22 coins. The way I did the math, I look at this as a $2,750 to about a $3,250 investment in MS63 coins. So you're looking at about $120 coins, but many of these coins are going to be under 100. And the reason we got that price up is, Russ felt it was important that we include a couple of the very, very interesting early pieces. And Russ thinks that there's a couple value coins, specifically 1891, the 02 and the 03, that you should probably get while they're affordable. Then on video number 2, we'll publish on Wednesday, we're going to go over the New Orleans Mint. The New Orleans Mint is its own thing. A lot of flat strikes, a lot of it's sort of the rustic mint here as far as Morgan dollars are concerned. And I've heard graders even tell me that they've picked sawdust off of some of these coins because of just how unsanitary the conditions might have been in the press room, or how the coins were stored over the years. And then
We shouldn't get into that.
yeah, and then on
The
Friday,
stories I could tell you about chocolate on coins.
and then on Friday we're gonna finish it up. We got the 9 coin San Francisco set, which includes like the best struck coins in the series. We'll also talk about the 1921 Denver coin, the only Denver mint strike in the $1 series. And then we're going to talk about the 3 Carson City coins that everybody can afford. So that's going to be the three videos. Well, this one today on Monday, New Orleans on Wednesday, and then San Francisco, Carson City, and Denver on Friday. And then at the end of the week, you'll know everything there is to know about this 50 coin set. In 1878, the Morgan dollar enters production. Overriding a presidential veto, Congress forces the mint to start striking millions of silver dollars, thinking that the silver dollars would freely circulate across the country. The first design that was put into production by George T. Morgan had 8 tail feathers on the reverse, but also a lot of people don't realize this. The relief on that coin was a little bit higher than what the rest of the year's production would be. And for whatever reason, it's been said that the bird wasn't anatomically correct, but it's a stylized bird. It doesn't look like any bird I've ever seen to begin with. But the order was put in to cease production and to change the number of tail feathers from 8 to 7. That's the story. But in reality, what ends up happening is the relief gets slightly lowered, the coin goes back into production, and we see the 7 tail feather version become the primary design. Now, the mint already had dies created with the 8 tail feathers that it was no longer allowed to use. And so they hand engraved 7 tail feathers over the 8 tail feathers. And if you have a strong glass and you have one of these varieties, you can see the undertype of the 8 tail feathers ever so slightly, or at least remnants of it, where the 7 tail feathers has been engraved over it. But this is an interesting variety because the 8 tail feathers is definitely more expensive than what we want in our range of 50 coins. You get a taste of it, but you also get that slightly higher relief Morgan dollar without paying the 8 tail feather money. And you're telling me that there's actually 2 types of 7 over 8 tail feathers that you should look for.
Yes, there is a weak and a strong, and that will be designated on the holder. Obviously, the weak's going to be less expensive than the strong. The strong is more desirable. But I think what on average you're going to find that these coins have sort of a below an average mint luster to them. You're going to have moderate bag marks, and the abrasions are going to be typical.
Yeah, and on this coin, I mean, you're probably looking at a retail price between, I'd say, probably about $250 to $300 for a 63.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, and I'm checking the auction records for pretty much the past 6 months, maybe past 9 months. The average is $192. Mm-hmm. With the high price of 226 and the low of 168. So it seems like it's holding steady right at around the $200 level. That would be at auction. A very choice specimen will bring up at $300.
Right. And then it is important to realize there's a difference between auction prices and retail prices too. I mean, when you have a retail price, perhaps a dealer bought a coin at an auction, is carrying it in inventory. You will in all likelihood pay slightly more at retail, but the difference being is you have the opportunity to look at multiple examples. Sometimes there could be a reason why the dealer thought the coin was a good value and purchased it at the auction. A lot goes into it. There's some draggy material that ends up being sold at auction that gets passed over by professionals, and that may give a false indication of where the market is for coins, but it just shows where the market was at that time for that coin, as opposed to where it
Well,
is on a
true.
result.
And all coins are, you have your SCSI, your average, and your above average, right?
Right.
And so 168 as the lowest low is probably a very ugly kind of attic collection coin. Your average being $200 is what you can probably expect to find at the coin show. However, when you're paying that $300 price tag, you got to be like, wow, I've seen 7 of these, and this is by far the nicest I've seen. And therefore, you step up a little bit. So I think that kind of dovetails with what you just said, where it's more of a retail thing, uh, but it's also the price you pay when you're patient, you finally find the right coin.
So that's the first coin there, and that's the 7/8 tail feathers, which again, anytime you can get a coin and you can enjoy it beyond just looking at it, where you can enjoy it under the glass, I think that always adds for me like a certain perspective. Another great thing about More in Dollars as a type is these coins do typically exhibit die cracks, clash marks, all the sort of man-made error that gets added to the equation when they're striking these coins at the rate of speed that they were required to with the technology they had. So I think every single coin you buy should have some little aspect or facet of it that's really neat to look at under magnification.
Right, right.
So the second coin from 1878 in Philadelphia is the 7 tail feather. So this is the revised type. And believe it or not, this one actually trends a little higher than the 7/8 for reasons I don't quite understand, because most of the coins struck at Philadelphia that year were the 7 tail feathers.
Well, remember, this is the reverse of 1878, rather than the reverse of 1879, which is a much more scarce issue. But the mintage of the 7/8 is estimated to be 950,000, whereas for the 7 tail feather, it's 9.7 million. So I think that might accommodate for the price discrepancy.
And are we looking for the same quality with this revised hub on this one?
Uh, Below average luster, abrasions, and mint marks. You expect to find it. Finding a clean cheek with minimal contact in the fields, it's kind of tough, especially at this grade level.
Yeah, and I think this probably owes a lot to the climate and the storage issues relating to the Philadelphia coins. Because they had the winter after winter and these subterranean vaults.
Yeah,
You had the fact that they moved these bags around over and
yeah,
over again. So by the time
yeah,
the GSA stockpile of dollar coins is completely exhausted in the 60s, these things must have like survived many, many, many cold spells and many times being moved around.
yeah.
These giant heavy sacks. So don't
We've
expect
all
them.
seen our fair share of. I bet you have probably as many as I have, but in the bottom of banks, especially those owned by individuals or groups of individuals, they tend to make that their own private safe deposit box. And I remember one of my first times in this business back in the mid '80s. I was asked by the none other than the FBI to go to Rhode Island and grade a room full of 30,000 silver dollars,
What
all
was
in
the
bags.
room like? I mean, was it like
It was a
sterile
basement of a bank.
environment, or
It was a basement of a bank, and there were Morgan dollars in sacks all the way around four corners, and I had to take out each one and grade it. I'll never forget it.
it,
I was paid well, but after 1,000 coins every day, you have to sit in your car for about an hour before you can start driving.
right? I guess your hands probably smelled like rotten sacks and metal.
Oh yeah, you got it. Well, I don't know. We all have our stories like that.
Uh, all right, so let's move on. Now we're going to start getting into the a run of affordable dates. We're going to look at the 1879. So with the die changes behind it, the engraving department was able to get some consistency here. The Philadelphia Mint pumped out 14,800,000 of these coins. And a majority of them are going to, again, they're going to fall in that 3 to 4 range.
And I'm looking at the prices on this. It's um, your average is going to be about 120 with a high of 150 and a low of 90. It's for the most part, 150 is going to be like a nicely toned coin or the baby butt smooth cheek kind of thing. All right. So that would be a target retail price for a coin that you really like. But I think the average price you're going to pay is 120.
Right. And again, like, this date was one of the dates that was like found in abundance during the when the treasury vaults were cleared out. A lot of these coins came into the market in the 50s and the 1960s, which is why they're affordable. The fourth coin here in the Philadelphia set is going to be the 1880. The 1880 is a little scarcer than the 1879. And 12 million were struck. It's 2.8 million fewer than the year before. Still, a lot of these were in the bank vaults. They were selling for face value through the 60s, but by the 80s, they were selling for quite a bit more as demand for Morgan dollars really picked up. Today, they're selling. You're looking in the low hundreds for a mid-state 63 example. They don't really start to get scarce until you get into the 65s and sixes.
Right. It's kind of like falls into the same category as the 1879. Um, Majority will have average to full strikes. Um, it's a very easily collected coin in 63 grade. The average price is about $115 and 155 being the top and 90 being the low. So I think it's got room for growth, especially with the current demand in all things pre 1921. There's a terrific uh, uh, emphasis right now throughout the market on collecting these coins, especially in circulated condition, which will have an effect on the uncirculated coins eventually.
Let's talk about this issue of strike, and I'll put some illustrations up of strong versus weak strikes. When we're talking about strong or weak or flat strikes with Morgan dollars, where are the areas that you look to determine whether the strike is strong or weak?
Well, the 1-2 punch answer to that question would be, the high points, and I'm just going to go right to the ear and the eagle's breast. Ear on
Okay.
the obverse, eagle's breast on the reverse.
So if the eagle's breast doesn't have that sort of that faint ruffling of the feathers being articulated in the strike, that's weak. And on the hair, sort of like that top bit of hair before the ear and that ear, if that's not fully articulated, it's not fully struck up either.
And on some issues, it just doesn't come that way. You'd have no
Right.
T, especially on some of the New Orleans issues, they're completely flat. Uh, Periodically, I'll have a buyer come up and look at and examine the coins that happen to be in my showcase, and he'll say, "No, I want a little bit of a stronger ear than that." And what I hope he's not doing is comparing a San Francisco mint strike to a New Orleans mint strike, since they're so dramatically different. But after a little conversation, apparently this collector or buyer has actually spent the time to understand what he's looking for and is really looking for the not the unicorn, but one of the top pieces for the grade from maybe a first strike kind of coin.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna compare an 1881 or 82s to a New Orleans coin, you'd probably think that there was no such thing as an uncirculated New Orleans coin based on
It's
the
a good
strike.
point. Yeah, I mean, the sample, as we'll discuss in the third episode, the San Francisco mint coins are just pop with flash. I mean, the word headlight comes to mind. They just pop. It's amazing. Now, New Orleans, they look drunk. They're just drab, and Philadelphia can kind of tend to follow that same suit. There's not a whole lot of life to them when you compare them to the San Francisco mint coins.
No, no, absolutely. And it's amazing you think with the engraving department being in Philadelphia that that they would go down to the production floor and look at the coins and feel like at least a little bit of like pride that their coins should look as good as the San Francisco issues. But I guess at the time, the San Francisco Mint was a state-of-the-art facility.
Yeah.
And it was primarily there to strike gold coins. So they were really
Yeah.
only striking these silver coins because the law required it, and
Right.
they didn't have enough storage space in Philadelphia or time around the clock to strike them all. All right, so let's move on. So we've gotten 1881. And one thing I will also say about this, when you're striking 11, 12, 13, 14 million coins, they are not in any hurry to swap out these dies.
No.
So they're not laser engraving dies in the 19th century. So they're running these dies into the ground. So to get strong strikes, early die state strikes with like full articulation of the stars and the mottos, everything is crisp and clear. These are coins that should command a premium, and if it is your desire to collect the early die state coins, you are going to pay more for them and be more discriminating in your pursuit.
Especially with the 1881. I mean, it's the coin is below average for any Philadelphia mint, and you're going to find the obverse is flat all the time. So if you're a perfectionist, be prepared for disappointment. But if you find that coin with a stronger strike, dated 1881, without a mint mark on the reverse, it might be worthy of consideration.
And I would also put this down like in your notes when you're going to a show to kind of have in your mind what the strike characteristics are. Because especially with some of these lower end coins, I mean, I don't want to speak for every dealer, but they may not be paying the same amount of care or attention to something in the $100 to $200 range as they might for something that they have 10, 15, 20,000 or more dollars invested in, as far as like how close they're looking at the coin and what they're trying to get out of it. So you can run into a situation where someone may have 8 or 10 of these coins and 1 or 2 of them really are a lot better. And you could have the opportunity to really pick something if you're patient and if you see the quantity of coins necessary to be able to tell what you're looking at.
That's an interesting observation, and I think that from what I know of dealer mentality, that unless they are a part of that maybe 10% that are strong aficionados of the series, the other 90% don't know anything about the strike of an 1881 Morgan dollar, for example, and therefore you have the luxury of picking that coin off, so to speak, that normally you wouldn't be able to do so if you were dealing with a Morgan dollar specialist.
Right. If you go up to a table and the guy has nothing but dimples, you're probably out of luck. But if
there are a couple
somebody,
of people like that.
yeah. But if it's a dealer that's really diversified and it just looks at it as a sort of a type coin, then you might have a chance to get something really cool that slipped through the cracks.
I agree.
So let's move on. 1882 is the next one on our list. In fact, actually, the great thing about this Philadelphia set, Russ, is you're really allowing people to get that whole decade. Well, actually, if you think about it, we started 1878. We're going to run all the way to 1891 before we take a break. So you're getting just a real nice run of dates here.
Right. Yeah. You can't beat that.
So here we go. 1882. Again, there's a little bit fewer coins struck, still 11 million, still practically no demand. The mint leadership is starting to agitate about it, what they're going to do with all these coins they have to store. Again, like the 1881, you're going to see a lot of worn out dies. And the surviving coins, due to the way the coins are distributed in the 50s and 60s, you're seeing 63s, 64s, and you can get quite a few brilliant looking coins with just a slight bit of toning around the rims that have not been dipped. But right. You also see quite a number of them that have turned a little bit creamy or a little bit of brown or gold toning on them as well that are original. If the coin's completely blast white and you're concerned about whether they were dipped, it's only really an issue if you see like sort of residue or spots left over from it not being properly rinsed. You will see coins and holders sometimes that have like little dots here or there that look like it's just leftover jewel luster or whatever they put them in, acetone.
Well,
Um,
if those dots are symmetrical, that could be marks from canvas, being in a canvas bag.
yeah, it can be that too, but usually those have a different color, than just
Yeah,
that kind of sort of that wispy, creamy look that I sometimes see on
right,
dipped coins.
right. Well, that the 1882 is often really heavily bag marked. I mean, it's hard to find a coin that's attractive. Um, and there are 15 different die varieties. So as you said earlier, I mean, they just use the die until it just virtually broke apart.
And it is cool, when you start seeing these dies, they'll have these like radial die cracks around the letters, around the stars. You may see some
Yeah,
die cracks in the hair, around the high points of the relief. You'll see things around the wings or in the lettering of the United States. I personally find coins either you're collecting perfect die state because like you just are into the aesthetics of the design, right? Or you like a little bit of like personality on a coin to see, you see the sort of the die falling apart.
yeah. Okay. The financials on the 82 is average of 102 with 134 the high and 81 the low. And if I don't say the time period involved, let's just assume it's the past 12 months.
And so on the 1883 issue, this is interesting because I was looking through the Mint director's report before we came on, and I was kind of trying to see like how was the Mint dealing with this issue because you look at the mintages at the different branch mints, and again we're going to talk about New Orleans in more detail, but essentially New Orleans after the Civil War kind of only came back into production because of this coin. Uh, they
Well, that's
they
an
were
interesting observation.
yeah because they what it was is like the Congress had this like unrealistic expectation of like how many they would produce. There wasn't this huge demand, right, Russ? And so they had to figure out, well, who can strike the coins, and then what are we going to do because people aren't taking them out of our vaults. So you see early on, you see in San Francisco, and we'll talk about more detail, they start striking a lot of Morgan dollars early, and then they stop. They taper it down because they just run out of room. Um,
Right.
Philadelphia like is doing 10, 12, 14. Eventually they'll get to over 20 million of these coins a year. But when you look at like what the other mints are doing, their mintages are going down, and it's one incorrect way of looking at it was like, well, I guess there wasn't a lot of demand here or there, and there was more demand in Philadelphia. Well, the reality is, no, they had a total target number they had to hit come hell or high water. And like the Mint was trying to figure out how they were going to juggle this because they didn't have any room to put them. And you can't just have like bags of silver dollars sitting in the backyard or something. You had to find some place to put these things. And the institutional banks weren't like clamoring for them. So amazing. In 1883, Russ, the Mint director, Horatio Burchard, he's now just completely fed up with like having to produce these coins. And you know how like these government bureaucrats aren't really like taking Congress to task usually because they want to keep their jobs. But he decides he's going to put in the Mint report.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. He wants to put in the Mint report, the deep state. He wants to put in the Mint report to tell Congress like what he thinks of this idea, right? He tells
Yeah.
them that they need to end the program, that none of the banks want the coins, and they're going to have to come up with some way to hoard them. They said that they had already accumulated, and this is like only 5 years into it, they had accumulated 100 million silver dollars in their vaults that nobody wanted. We're only 5 years into a program that would keep going on until 1921.
Oh my God. No wonder they were burying them.
Right, right. It's
A
it's like
hundred
this.
million?
Yeah, yeah, 100 million. Which if you look at it like the Susan B. Anthony dollar, that's like January to like May 1979.
Okay.
Right.
But also the population is far vaster in that 79 and 81.
Yeah. So
But
anyway,
wow, that's
but
I
anyway,
would have thought that they were spending them more.
no,
I
no,
guess they were still on dimes and quarters.
right, right. So what's the market bear out for the 83?
All right, the 83. We my numbers got a little skewed because we have $1,000 price realized for a VAM variety. Apparently, there were only 6 varieties for this year, and I'm going to get off on a tangent here. But this VAM 10, this is for the guys who are really into this stuff. The sextupled star variety, VAM 10, realized $1,000. So as you're looking for an 1883, make sure you look at those stars. Anyway, the average price would probably be let's see, we figured it out to be about 105 with a low of 74 and then the high of 1,026, which skews the whole thing. But that's a whole nother ball of wax, this van variety collecting, and it can be very profitable if you are diligent enough and patient enough to find something like a sextuple star 1883 VAM 10.
All right, so now we're get to 1884. This is going to be the eighth coin of our 22 coins for the Philadelphia set. This is one of the more affordable coins you're going to see in this set. There's only, I would say, the 86, 87, or maybe in this threshold, maybe in the 1921. In 84, there were 14 million coins produced by the Philadelphia Mint. And this was actually the year that Congress was considering opening up a branch mint in St. Louis, Missouri. It didn't happen, but I guess you could say if it did, they probably would have planned to build a very large subterranean vault to store all the Morgan dollars.
It's right below the base of the arch. In fact, the arch was made out of silver. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think the arch was there yet. Arrow Saarinen being.
They were building it out of the 100 million silver dollars in Philadelphia, piece by piece, brick by brick.
That's right. So what do you got on the 84? What's the action on that?
Well, first of all, this is like one of the first issues from the Philadelphia Mint that has a really nice strike, a very full strike quality. It's got a heavy, it's sometimes heavy bag marks, but average luster. But you're not going to be as disappointed with this issue as you are with the preceding ones. And as far as the financials are concerned, we have 7 die varieties, which may account for the high of $216, but your average price is 125 with a low of 75, and that would be over the past 12 months.
And would you say that the Morgan dollar market's been chugging along like the rest of the rare coin industry, or is it in a different sort of follow a different trajectory than rare coins?
Well, being a senior numismatist here at RARCOA, where the office that I'm at now in Illinois, we are at the forefront of buying Morgan dollars. We have probably 36,000 in inventory right now of certified Morgan dollars, ones with barcodes. We are selling bags of silver dollars to the tune of maybe 17 a week, which is 17,000 coins going out. We're trying to find them, and there's a real shortage of this. So have Morgan dollars been good over the past couple of years? You bet they have. I mean, I think that they've gone up 40%.
When's the last time you guys got offered like unopened bags?
I can't say because I'm working with one right now. If I said that, it would set off alarms everywhere, and somebody might like go, "Hey, what? Wait a minute, that's now available." I'm not going to say anything.
Well, you should get some B-roll of it being opened for us.
I plan on doing that. If I can get to that point where I have full control of it, we'll add it in
Yeah,
to one of
yeah,
these.
yeah. All right. I mean, how well, on a side though, I mean, how frequent do you think those are available? Do you think most of the stockpiles of those are known quantities at this point, or?
uh, I think, first of all, I think original bags have all but been discovered. RARCOA was built on the continental hoard and that was just all silver dollars back in the 60s, I believe. And it would be very surprising if you found individuals with original bags that are still sealed,
Mhm.
especially pre 1921 Morgan dollars. Maybe some peace dollars might exist because later years. Um, yeah, I think that they're kind of done. I just don't think that they're out there anymore. I mean, if you find one, I think the most important thing is if one's sealed, do not break the seal.
Right.
Because the minute you break the seal, then the next person who comes along that wants to say, "Oh, well, wait a minute, this is open. How do I know they're all the same date? How do I know this is not a made up
Right.
bag?" A bag with an original seal on it is worth a ton more than a bag with a broken seal.
What,
So
what do you
if
figure? What do you figure like just a bag is worth for a undetermined date? I mean, are you looking at like 85, 100,000 for a bag or
I'd say more than that,
more than that now?
a sealed bag,
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, I would say that. I mean, think about original wrapped roll of St. Gaudens double eagles
Hmm.
or 1909 VDB pennies. The original roll, the the premium that someone would pay for that originality is extraordinary. It's kind of like a Cracker Jack box to a much lesser extent. There's always going to be a prize inside, but you never know what it is. But to maintain the integrity of the roll, the bag, whatever it might be, the proof set, the mint set, it's critical.
Now that you bring it up, I am surprised that we haven't seen the grading services develop a product where they can take like like an original shotgun roll or bank roll or whatever of any sort of date and then if it came from an official bank or whatever and just encapsulate it as it is without opening it up. I'm surprised we haven't really seen something like that, as on the market. I think we've been so obsessed with like cracking those open and getting the high grades out of them that we kind of maybe lose sight of the inherent coolness of like a 1919 roll or something like that.
Well, it's funny. Somebody approached me with a 1950 Denver Mint roll of nickels, and 1950D used to be and still is kind of a key date. And I said, just take the whole roll and submit it to PCGS, but call them first and let them know that it's coming. I haven't heard what happened, but to go ahead and do that would be a great idea. If you're going to get them all consecutively numbered, and hopefully on the holder they'll say from an original roll.
The next one on our list is 1885. And here, this is an issue with 17 million struck. The Mint in Philadelphia is ramping up production, and they will be ramping up production for the rest of the decade to offset the diminished storage facilities elsewhere. So, with this increased mintage, means that there's of course, a higher number of coins that were available for us to collect as they were kept in government stockpiles and released gradually over the decades. These were in abundance in the 50s and 60s, and they still are, fairly typical type coin.
And they come with excellent luster for a Philadelphia mint, moderate bag marks, abrasions. And during this later run from the 1880s, 86, 87, you're going to see the same characteristic that there's probably a better quality. I dare say more attention to the details of the minting process. I mean, who knows, but it could be. Um, the 85 has 10 different dye varieties, and the average price is $117 with a low of 60. And for a CAC coin, you can pay as much as $300.
Well, what would you say? Is there what coins at these grade levels are typically selling for discounts? Are we looking at coins with just sort of like, discolored, unattractive toning, bringing the lower numbers, or are
Yeah.
these just coins with like, weak strikes and kind of subdued luster?
Um, no, it's accurate, but not so much weak strikes and subdued luster. I think that contact marks, uh, especially like on the face and reeded edge gouges or things like that, will bring substantial discounts. You're going to get sub $100 for those coins. You just want to move them out. They're probably the coins that are going to go back into a thousand face dollar bag of coins, or maybe even rolls. Although I haven't been seeing a lot of rolls of 20 coins lately.
Well, let's real quick, Russ, refresh people's maybe understanding. Of course, if you want our full comprehensive grading rundown of the Morgan Dollar series, I'll put the link to the video that we did in the comments. But let's talk about what are you looking for in a wholesome MS63 coin?
What I look for in an MS63 coin would be just as minimal amount of contact marks as possible, depending upon the mint, a luster or a cartwheel luster. Um, we've been discussing strike. Strike is going to be very important. If my eye is attracted to anything, any one thing in particular, like a spot or something like that, believe it or not, the next person who sees that coin when you want to go sell it is going to be attracted to the same thing. So you tend to avoid that. But since you're only spending on average between $100 and $150 for these common coins, uh, you know, you can be choosy, but you can also upgrade as you go along. If you bought an 1885 and another one comes along better, you can always sell that first 1885 and keep the second one.
Yeah, for me, I think it's important to look at these under proper light, an incandescent light bulb if you can get a hold of one anymore. Um, I try to avoid coins where the hits on the coin really reflect light really strongly, because like
Yeah,
it seems like the deeper the hit, the stronger that reflection is when you're rotating the coin. I also look at like the portrait is the centerpiece to me of the entire coin. It's the piece that holds it all together, and I'm more comfortable with like scattered. I would call it like a star field of very minor, like surface abrasions in the near the stars or something like that, than like a deep hit or anything on the cheek or the chin or the eye or anything. I think if you look
right.
at the if you they look like wounds to me when I'm looking at a coin. If Liberty is really scuffed up, it looks like, like imagine a person being like have cuts or wounds on them.
No, that's
Um,
a good way of looking at it.
yeah, if the hits are in the hair or on the cap or any kind of protected or like hidden areas, I'm really less concerned about that at 63. Now, of course, if you're paying 67 plus 68, whatever money, your standard of what you expect has to be much more stringent than this. I would say like there's an area usually above like, the eagle where "In God We Trust" is written. That
Mm-hmm.
it's a very unprotected area, and a lot of times in these lower grade Morgan dollars, you'll see contact marks there. And
Yeah,
if I can avoid that area being too scruffy, because like you want to be able to read the "In God We Trust" without looking like it's been really damaged. So on that, like if as long as the scratches are like in the lower parts of the field or again hidden, but a lot of what I'm kind of putting out there, if those things weren't there, the coin may be grading 64, 65 to begin with. So the question really is the level or the degree of the contact marks that you're seeing.
well, I know what you mean by the area around "In God We Trust," and I also think that if you can find the hits in the devices like the hair or the feathers or the breast feathers, you're much better off. Um, One thing that came to me while you were saying that is that the NGC Green Label program, you spend a little bit more for those dollars, but those coins are vetted for just that, those very reasons. Okay, the coin makes it into an NGC Green Label holder because it has qualities like that. So that actually can limit your hunting time spent by just going and looking for those types of coins, because I think you're going to find a greater degree of success with them. You're going to pay a little bit more, but it's kind of an insurance policy you're paying for.
Well, right, and the thing is if the coin's conspicuously, scruffy, it's
Yeah.
going to be obvious to everybody who looks at it. And then, like you had a choice when you bought the coin. They're going to have the same amount of choice, and they're deciding if they want to buy the coin from you or if they want to take their time to buy, somewhere else. So even at 63, it's worth being conscientious about what you're buying, because even if it's $75 or $100 instead of $500, it's still your money, it's still real money, and you should have a sense of pride in what you put together. 50 coins is a pursuit. You're not going to get it done in a weekend.
Yep.
And you want to feel like as you're building something that like you've not only achieved something, which you will have, but that you've done so where you can look at one coin to the next and say, that's why I bought this one. That's why I bought that one. Because that's actually how you train your grading eye. And that's how you train your sort of your numismatic acumen. So when you go into other coins or you start spending more, going to that next threshold, maybe going to a more expensive series, that you've already developed those tools that you're going to need to succeed elsewhere.
Or
So,
going to higher grades, because, while you're looking at 63s, you'll probably have an equal opportunity to look at 64s and fives and to compare and contrast and make mental note of the differences. You're getting a grading education right there and then.
yeah,
And not only that, and just let me add one more thing. If you go to a show where they actually have lot viewing for auctions, you have to register, but then you get to go sit in front of a group of coins that is broad and varied, and you can compare and contrast all the different coins, let's say silver dollars, all the different mints, all the different grades, all the different grading services, color, no color. It's an educational process in itself. That's how I educated myself, is just by spending hours and hours and hours at stacks in New York back in the 80s.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying there are quality MS64 coins and MS63 holders, and there
Yep.
are bad MS64 coins and MS65 holders. So you really have to know what you're looking for, train your eye, and again, even if you're buying at 63, you can still get nice coins as long as you understand what the limits are, what that band is going to present to you in the marketplace.
Right. I'm going to take a break for a second.
No problem.
1 minute. Give me 2 minutes.
All right, Russ. So now let's move on to 1886, the date. If you've only ever seen one or two Morgan dollars in your entire life at a pawn shop or at a flea market, odds are it's going to either be a 86 or a 1921 P. What can we say about the 86?
Well, okay. 86, again, like the 1885, it has excellent mint luster. And I think because a lot of it was stored and shipped in bags out of that mintage of 19 million, you're going to find that most of them have moderate bag marks and light abrasions rather than the heavy bag marks of the earlier coins. There are approximately 15 die varieties, and the average price is going to be about, well, I'll have to take out $3,720 for a VAM 20, which is a double date, but the average price is going to be about $105 again, with a low of 61. Um, there we run up again. There's a VAM 20, 1886, double date, MS-63, PCGS sold for $3,700. How do you like that?
Well, that's pretty good if you knew what you're looking for and you got one of those for $70 for sure. Um,
Or if you have one in the attic somewhere, take a look at it closely.
right. So yeah, this was like I said, this was another one of those key dispersal dates. In fact, actually, when people used to go to the cash office at the Treasury in the 50s and 60s, I read about this. I was not yet born when this was happening, but when people were going to the cash offices, I heard that dealers were trying to figure out ways not to get the 1886s because they were so plentiful. They were selling at face value to begin with, and they didn't want it. I heard a story where John J. Ford had a technique where he could tell which bags he wanted to avoid. He would take a lit cigarette that he had, and he would burn a little hole in the bag, and then he would peek in there. And if it was the date he
Are you sure
didn't
it
want,
wasn't a cigar?
a cigar, yeah, he would reject it. He would reject it and then go get a different bag. So already running scams.
I
um,
tell you.
so all right, let's move on. 1887. So this was the peak year of production up to this point for Philadelphia.
Yes,
Uh,
20 million.
20 million coins. Again, this time another mint director, Kimball, starts to plead with Congress to either stop making the coins or telling them to make the coins or to appropriate funding for new subterranean vaults. They were literally pulling silver out of the ground and putting it back in the ground, but they were running out of space. So it would have been better off left in Nevada at this point. Uh, so another date, it's actually I found in my experience that I don't really think the 86 and the 87s really look like one another all that much from a finish or strike characteristic. I feel like they're different.
I think I've read that 87s are inferior to the strike and abrasion quality of 85 and 86, but I think we might be splitting hairs. So I'm tending to side with you on that.
Yeah, so yeah, the one that we have here that you sent over, I mean it's actually pretty nice as far as the 63 87 goes. I mean, it's got a lot of like flash in the fields, and the reason it probably graded the 63 was just because the abrasions in the field. There's like little tiny scratches here and there, but this coin again, it's got a lot of cartwheel luster when you rotate it around. It looks good. This is definitely a coin that if I was buying in the grade, I would pick a coin like this.
Sure. Well, it has 14 different dye varieties, and one
Okay.
of them actually is a very popular one that's called the alligator eye. So if we're catering to the audience of VAM collectors and to make it interesting, that would be something to look for. Uh, the average price is going to be higher at about $150 per coin for the 87, with a low of 58, which in looking, I want to just take a look at that because that's the lowest price we've mentioned up till now. And that was out of a David Lawrence auction, and it just had a huge tear in the cheek, right below the eye and right behind the nose. So I can see how it was not a highly desirable lot to buy. But your average price is going to be about one, yeah, 149. The high was 336.
Wow, 336. I wonder if that coin must have had some nice color to it.
Let me tell you, I do have the ability. Well, there's some that actually realize 200 to $300, but this one here had a rainbow toning right across the middle of the obverse. So you're right. It was all about the rainbow toning there.
Right. And for most of these Philadelphia strikes on these common dates, you're going to see, maybe about 3 or 4% of them may have PL or semi PL finish to them. And you can still
Yeah.
see some of that in these lower grades. But for my money, I avoid PL or dimple coins and grades that are below gem because they show every scratch, every imperfection, and they look worse than they are when everything reflects.
I think in general, I would agree with you. I was just looking through some of the better green holdered coins that we have in stock right now that are PL. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that they were really not that bad looking. But I agree. If you're going to graduate to the PL and DMPL issues, the higher the grade, its gem should probably be the minimum. I met a collector at the Central State Show last week, and he's all about only the Philadelphia Mint coins. Surprisingly enough, it fits with this conversation, and only about 65 and DMPL. And he shared with me there are some issues that he just hasn't been able to find. So, checking population data would be a good idea. If you're going to buy a coin to speculate on, the lowest population data for PL and DMPL would be a great bet because everybody's going to need one, like this guy I met at the Central State Show.
Yeah,
Therefore,
and
there's going to be more demand, and the chances are it's going to go up faster in value.
yeah, and when I got started collecting, I was under the false impression that PL and dimple meant that the coin necessarily had to have a frost on the devices. I thought it was more kind of like a kind of proof strike, how they would have a cameo finish, and you can see that, but that's not a prerequisite. So
No, it's more consistent with Carson City, as you know, and San Francisco mint issues.
right, and they do command a tidy sum if there's a that nice black and white contrast on top of clean surfaces and real deep
Yeah,
mirrors.
I had an opportunity at a Houston show um, back in I think 2017 of seeing the finest known registry set of deep mirrored proof like dollars. It was owned by a guy by the name of Carl. I think Hansen ended up buying it in its entirety. But let me tell you something: the black and white contrast of those coins was phenomenal. I mean, you're looking at a box and you go boom, and pretty soon you're putting your jaw back in place because you keep on looking at these coins and these dates, and they all have that just gorgeous contrast to them. Of course, they are graded 66 and 67 in most cases, but that was an experience to behold.
To think those things all come out of bags at some point like that, it's just like almost like by like by provenance that they survived without being scuffed all up.
Yeah.
Um,
That set, by the way, it was for sale for about $2 million. Today, I bet you couldn't buy it and replace it for five.
wow, it's amazing. How many years
Yeah.
ago was this?
2017 is when I saw
Wow.
it, or 20. Yeah, Mr. Hansen became really active in 2017, right?
Yeah, about
I
that.
think
Yeah.
that's when he first came on the scene. So I think that's when he picked that up. That was one of the, I'm not sure, but I know that that was one of the first things that I heard got sold. And then more and more information came out about his buying activities, which was just incredibly impressive anyway. But
Hmm.
having that as a cornerstone for one of his first purchases was brilliant.
Set the bar high. So let's move on. We're now looking at the 1888. So with this, you're looking at 19 million struck. So the Philadelphia Mint still bearing the brunt of the congressional requirement. Most of these are going to be weekly struck, unfortunately. This is not one of the better dates for Philadelphia.
Very poorly struck. Um, I think my notes say you can, expect like very little detail, flatness, and below average luster. Um, it's going to be expensive to try and find a nice coin, unless, of course, you're, dealing with someone who doesn't know the what to look for the issue. Um, I have a 360 high with a $75 low and an average price of 138. And that $360 coin was not CAC, but it was kind of a turquoise rose gold toning on the obverse. So that was a obverse only toning.
Yeah, and when we talk about the weakness of the strike, I mean, this is one of those things where experience will tell you the difference between a truly uncirculated example and what maybe you might call a slidery coin. The hair, specifically when you get to that hair detail above the ear on coins like this that are flatly struck, that they're not fully articulated. And you know, an uncirculated one will still be flat and not have that hair detail, but the flatness won't be discolored from where it'll just basically be like not fully struck up.
Right.
Something you'll be able to see under glass or if you have a trained eye. But this is, like I said, this is not an issue that usually comes fully detailed. And again, Russ earlier was mentioning to you guys about the breast feather detail. This is another coin where that breast detail is not fully articulated, except on the very best strikes of the year. All right, so closing out the 1880s is the 1889. And here's an example, 21 million coins. Unbelievable. Again, this is probably the high water mark for the Philadelphia Mint, this period of Morgan dollar production. At the time, they're creating a lot of cents, a lot of nickels, a lot of Morgan dollars. And so you're going to look for a 63, 64 grade for this date. They are plentiful. They start to get scarce once you get in the gem and superb gem area.
You know, what's interesting too is that as the mintages for business strikes are going up, I also just noted that the proof strikes were going down. You know, the proof strikes were over 1,000 in the early years, and now it's down to 811. You know, so for whatever that's worth, I know
Well, I
that
mean,
metals were.
that's kind of indicative of how big the coin collecting market was at the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at a hobby that actually was quite thriving, and it had probably 1 to 2,000 collectors nationwide, going after all sorts of material. One of the reasons we are fortunate to have a lot of these things survive is because of these 1 or 2,000 people. But
That's
yeah,
true.
but this was the like today, if the Mint pulled a silver eagle out and made 1 or 2,000, um, you'd be buying them for 100, 150 grand each at an auction. But back then
That's
it
true.
was that was the entire size of the market.
Okay, so 1889, we have 12 die varieties approximately. Um, Average luster, moderate bag marks, high of 159, low of 60, and an average of 106. So the $60 coin looked like it had just been pulled out of tar, and it had a very large fingerprint in front of the face, almost a black coin. So not very desirable. And 159 was a CAC coin, which was also toned, but only on the peripheries, rainbow toning, obverse, and reverse, and endorsed by CAC.
So that closes out the 1880s. When we get to the 1890s, especially around 1892, 3, the country goes into a big economic depression, and that creates quite a few rare issues in all coin types. But for the 1890s, the Philadelphia strike and affordable grades, you are able to pick up several of the dates, 90, 91, 96, 97, and 98. So this is we're going to have some representative samplings of this period in time, but we will skip, like I said, we're going to have to skip that 92, 93. They get pricey, not as pricey as the branchment issues. The S and the CC are known rarities for the 1893, but this is still a very intriguing period in the production of the series. In the 1890 issue is one of the larger mintages. Still, it's around 16,800,000 coins. And because of that, it's not hard to find a mint state. None of these so far are. But again, you're looking at a challenging gem, especially in this state. I think once you get to 5 and 6, they actually become quite scarce, which will
Yes.
speak to the quality of the coin.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what's happening in the silver market in the United States at the time, the silver to gold ratio had gone from 16 to 1 in 1889 to 20 to 1 by 1890. So the quantity of silver that was able to be pulled out was like surpassing the demand to the point where the ratio between the two metals was like being disrupted on a global market.
I wonder if that had anything to do with the four silver barons out in the West at that point in time.
Well, they were the only
Um,
ones. The mint was making money, but they were the only ones making money, if you know what I mean.
Real money. Okay. 1890, below average P men. Um, Heavy bag marks and moderate abrasions and a low average mint luster. Approximately 9 different dye varieties with a market high of 115, a low of 79, and an average of 103 between PCGS and NGC. That $79 coin, dark on the obverse, white on the reverse, but it definitely looks like it was not very well cared for.
And do you, in your opinion, do you feel like there's continuity in the overall strike quality from the late, the 89, 88 to this 1890? Are we still looking at weak strikes, or are they sort of a little better produced?
In the early 90s, I think that the strikes get a little weaker.
And probably as the sort of the hubs have been fully used up, losing some of the detail.
I think after 1995 and going into 96, you get like a fuller strike.
Mm.
You get those very lean years where they didn't even make a Philadelphia Mint uh, silver dollar in business strike in 1895. And then they started up in 96 again. And that's when you get back to these full strike specimens. So something happened.
Right. So when we move up to 1891, and when we're looking at this set of 22 coins from Philadelphia, again, the point of this list was to give you coins that were affordable and plentiful, that you had choice, but also to create a different strata too of, like, let's just call them our keys to this series, right? So the keys so far, if you're keeping track, would have been the 78, 7/8 tail feathers, and the 7 tail feathers. I mean, these are going to be a few $100s, three up to 300 or so dollars. Everything after that's more or less around the 110 area, with some of the weaker coins being 80, $90. But the 1891, it's let's just call this the third of the little semi keys from this set. There'll be two more coins later in the list that are also going to be a few $100, but we think they're good values. And we think that you should have something to stretch for when you're building a set of Morgan dollars. So
Yeah.
so the 1891 was actually struck under the authority of the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of July 14th, 1890. It's actually a tougher date than you'd think. They did make 8,700,000 coins, but this was not a coin that really came out in huge quantities in the 50s and 60s. So it was available, but not to the degree that some of these other dates were available.
And not only that, but it is notorious for being like one of the least attractive P mints of any of the dates. Um, it's going to have an average or moderate to heavy bag marks and heavy abrasions, and it's just going to have poor luster. So you're really seeing the tail end of the influence of quality before you get this 5-year stretch where the quality picks back up again.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the one that you sent me, Russ, is from a strike and abrasion standpoint, Like this coin is like Jimmy, but from a luster standpoint, like the only word I really can come up with on this coin is like almost like cloudy or creamy. It doesn't really have a lot of like reflectivity when you rotate it around. It's
Yeah.
as if almost it's as if it wasn't struck with very much um luster at all. And this is a
Well, the
nicer
trouble,
one.
the problem is that in our vaults back here, I have all these organized by date in the boxes, and I try to go through and pick out the most eye appealing one that I can find. So that might not work for our purposes here.
Yeah, but
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 that's
in
the
this
point.
case, what I'm saying though, in this case though, from just like looking by the numbers,
Yeah.
it's like strike is pretty good for the date. A fully articulated detail on the feather, not anything significant or severe on Liberty. She looks fine. Frosty even a little bit, but just it's muted. It's so muted, the luster on this. And when you look at some of the earlier dates, or if you know grab a S Mint coin, I mean it's night and day. And
Yeah.
that but
Right.
this is like one of the better ones you're going to find in 63 for sure.
Yeah. Right. And it would be interesting to compare them to 64 and 65 grades.
So all right, so we got the 91, and what's the market going on those right now?
1891 in MS63 is going to be up in the $200 and $300 level. It's published price of 275. Not very many die varieties, approximately three. Uh, the high is 336, the low is 192, and the average is 218.
So the next one on our list from 91, we're going to skip ahead. We get to 1896. So the country has made it through its recession, depression, and now the economy's kind of moving along again. And you get to the 1896 issue where the Philadelphia Mint strikes nearly 10 million coins this year. And when the GSA was emptying its vaults, this was one of the easier Morgan dollar bags for dealers and speculators to pull from the vaults. And because of this, actually, this is one of the dates, and there were several dates of Morgan dollars in the late 70s and early 80s when the Hunt brothers are running up silver, that they would actually melt Morgan dollars, even BU Morgan dollars, because the numismatic premium didn't justify maintaining the coins when you could melt them into ingots and get $30 an ounce for a silver.
Mm.
So this was one of the ones that was actually kind of melted a little bit, during that period. It's still available and quite plentiful in mint state. Below Jim, or is where most of the coins are going to fall in the 3 to 4 range.
Yep. And the majority of them have full strikes. They're going to have light bag marks, full luster, minimal abrasions. I think, oftentimes you'll see a semi PL surface. Um, there's approximately 8 different dye varieties for this one, and a market high of 312. That is not a VAM variety, but it's an attractively toned coin. A low of 60, and an average of $140.
So Russ, like what's interesting, I think, about the 1897 is if you go back to the beginning of the Red Book, 1947, the 1890s, they basically broke down the Morgan dollars and what I would call like kind of different price tiers. You had your common price tier, and at the time, like you're looking at coins that were being listed for like double face or $2.50 and uncirculated condition. And then they went up, like there were like different categories as they climbed from like $3, $4, $5, $6 or whatever. And the 1897 Morgan dollar was actually a scarce date. They were selling for $5 in uncirculated condition in 1947, when coins were still being available at face value. Right, you could go to your bank and get a Morgan dollar face. Where the 1921 in the Red Book and uncirculated was selling for $2, right? this coin was selling. I'll tell you some other dates that were selling, and this is going to blow your mind. Same price in the 1947 Red Book as the 1897. You have the 1878
18.
1878 eight tail feather.
Ah,
Okay. You have the 1882 CC. You had
okay.
the 1883 CC, the 850, the 1890, and the 1903. We're all selling for the same amount of money as the 1897. And that's because uh, it was considered much scarcer in the 50s than it did after the Treasury releases
Right, right.
a decade or so later.
Huh.
So it's not one of those coins that everyone says, "Oh, the price completely collapsed because of Treasury Vault," because there were dates like that. But this was definitely like our understanding of this date and how scarce it was much different, like in the span of 20 years.
Weren't they going by the mintages back then too? You know, they were saying if the coin has a mintage equal to this other coin, then their value should be the same.
Well, they were running into situations where like there were coins that might have been released like contemporaneously when they were struck, and then they didn't show up ever again.
Yeah.
The Treasury was gradually releasing the bags throughout like time. So there would be releases in the teens and the 20s and the 30s. And of course, San Francisco bags are being released in San Francisco and so on and so forth. And eventually they move all the coins over to the East Coast to clear
Right.
up space, right? But this was just a date that was just scarce until the vaults were released and everything was fully realized.
Yeah. It's still a coin that you don't see very often. I mean, I see far more of the other coins on our list of 50 than I see of the 1897.
Right. Yeah, I always think about the coin and how for me, it always seems like it has like a greasy appearance.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. I mean, that might be as a result of being sort of semi-proof like, and therefore picking up all the imperfections, as you were earlier saying about not buying deep mirrored proof like or proof like coins that are in grades below gem.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just doesn't look right.
Right. So what's the market like today on a 1897? Clearly it's selling for more than $5.
uh, we got a market high of 264, a low of 80, and an average of 128. One of the notable varieties of that would be a VAM 6A, which is a pitted reverse.
All right. So moving on, Russ. Now we're going to get into we're now reaching coin number 18 in our 22 coin set. And we're looking at the 1898. So these were sort of scarce-ish before the mid-century Treasury releases, and now they're fairly common. Most of them, in my opinion, that I've seen have been well struck. And it's interesting. There are quite a few of these in the Redfield hoard when that was released. And John Kamen, who is the publisher of the Forecaster Money Letter newsletter,
Okay.
he's reported to have purchased 15,000 of these because he so believed in them. He was going to make a market in those
Of just 1898 dates?
the 1898 from the Redfield hoard. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
So what do you think about this issue? It's certainly it's a scarcer coin. I mean, it's 5,884,000. So this is, the mint is clearly, not making 10, 20 million anymore.
Well, it's got twice the mintage of the 1897, but it's still, I think it's one of those coins that's harder to find. You don't see them very often. I see the 1898 O far more frequently than I see the 1898 Philadelphia mint. But the coin's going to come nice. It's above average, and most of them have full strikes and light bag marks, maybe a full luster, some moderate abrasions. Die variety is approximately 4, and reasonably priced. 121 is the high, 77 is the low, and 96 would be the average.
All right, 1900. Now the mint, Philadelphia. We're skipping a year. 99 is not on our list, but we do get 1900. 1900, the mint in Philadelphia struck 8,830,000 of these. And this is one of the more common dates that you're going to see in the market. You'll see these at shows quite frequently. But I think that they're harder to find than the mintage implies. And you're much more likely to see the 1880 issues that we've talked about than a 1900. So I think this was one of those coins where even though it had a fairly large mintage, probably quite a few of these were melted because of the Pittman Act. They aren't rare or even scarce until you start getting into the ultra high grades. And it's also worth noting here that if you compare a 1900 to an 1898, you may notice that the reverse they deploy a different hub for 1900. So it's just a very slight design modifications exist. Nothing intentionally different there. It's not a different type. It's just a new hub.
And it's the beginning of the poor strikes for the new century. 1900, 1901, 02, and 04 are notoriously poor strikes. They all have moderate to heavy bag marks. Now, 1901 is not going to be a part of this list because it's one of the semi-key dates. But 02 and 04 will be similar to the 1900 with it's kind of a gray luster, would you say? Moderate abrasions. There are approximately 11 die varieties for the issue. And the high price would be 204 with the low of 80 and an average of $118.
Right, moving on to 1902, we have a coin 7,994,000 struck on this date. This is an important year for the Philadelphia Mint. It's the first full year of coinage at the third U.S. Mint facility, which they were very proud of. There's a state-of-the-art facility that they had built. It was only replaced in 1969, 1970 when they built the current fourth mint. It was hard to find this coin before the Treasury released all their holdings in the 60s, but it became more or less common after that. And I say common in the context of this list, it's not common. It's probably the third most expensive coin in our Philadelphia set. When you're looking at this coin, you're going to have some fortune here because bag marks become a little bit less of an issue for this date. And I find that a lot of them have a satiny surface. And for my eye, this is one of the better dates you're going to get from Philadelphia in terms of just quality eye appeal.
I might say a satiny gray colored surface because
Yeah.
these coins continue to have that sort of that gray appearance to them. And I would say, maybe the reverse is normally a little weaker than the obverse. Approximately 3 different die varieties. And as earlier noted, this is going to be more expensive. The high price being 3.25 for a CHC coin, a low at 192, and the average at 245.
Right, but I do think, like I said, for me, I think the fact that this was, you're getting a coin at the new mint, I think that sort of makes it a first year issue in some respects for that history there, and
Right.
and I think it's definitely a coin that you would be happy to have in this set. So you're seeing 1878 is the first year of issue, and this is the first year at the third mint. So 1902 across the board, all the different coins that came out that year are kind of neat from that regard.
Right. Agreed.
So in 1903, this will be the last issue on our Philadelphia set using more or less the original Morgan dollar hubs and variety and design. When they come back in 1921, they sort of had to recreate the wheel because they had thrown out the tools because they didn't expect to strike the coins again. So in 1903, you see 4,652,000 of these were struck, and obviously at this point, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act called for the purchase of a set amount of silver, and the mint had essentially gotten very close to fulfilling that obligation. They would complete that obligation in 1904. My opinion, Russ, these typically are very nice. The ones I've seen,
Yeah.
and I think that it's not even too hard to find these in gem. Although, that saying that, it's not that they're super abundant. I mean, these are not $75, $85 coins. They're a
No.
little bit in the mid range here, one to $200 or more. But yeah, these are some of the nicer Philadelphia strikes, I think.
Well, they still have the gray luster, but it's going to be a better than average than most of the mints, and it's going to be similar to those coins that we discussed between 1883 and 1887. You can have average bag marks for a choice brilliant uncirculated coin and moderate abrasions. Three different varieties. The average, I'm sorry, high price was 216, low of 100, and the average would be about 132.
So in 1921, this is going to be this is going to wrap up your set. You get every coin on our list so far up to here. You should have 22 coins when you're looking at your notes. So the 21 was struck again after a long hiatus. 1904 was the last year of, let's just say, the first run of Morgan dollars. They resuscitate the program in 1921. Farron Zerbe and other people at the ANA and the collecting community start to really advocate for the creation of a new design. Why not? If you're going to bring back the coin and have to make all these millions of coins, why not have a new design? The peace dollar is what develops out of that as they agitate for that. But in the interim, the mint produces new hubs, new dies, creates new Morgan dollars. They create them here at Philadelphia. They create them at the Denver Mint. This will be the first Denver Mint issue. We'll talk about that coin on Friday. And then they produce them at San Francisco. And this coin was made in such a huge number. I mean, we were talking about a lot of coins made, 10 million, a lot of coins made 15, 18, 20 million. They made 44,690,000 of these. And these coins were sort of like, let's just say these were the coins that nobody wanted. Dealers, when the treasury vaults were being released, they didn't want the 21s. They just wanted anything but that in the 86s. They were trying to get other coins like the 19th century issues. I personally feel that third-party grading changed the narrative on the 21, 21D, and the 21S. Because although, yes, they're plentiful, the reality is in the ultra high grades or even in gem, they're tougher than you'd think because they were not made with any particular care for the high state of preservation. And they were not hoarded by collectors pulling out the best ones because they had the vision to think, oh, one day MS-68 1921S is going to be worth $50,000. They were sort of not given the respect necessary to preserve the best ones as close to their time of release as possible. And when you look at the ultra high grades, 21s are kind of tough and like superb gem, especially when you go to the branch mints. And so I think for me, it's like one of the things about the grading revolution, not only did it sort of change the way we looked at coins, but it sort of created markets and coins that were kind of like underserved because we had our own biases about their availability because we weren't looking at quality in the same way, especially in the mint state grades. To us, it was like, is it mint state? Is it choice uncirculated or is it a gem? That was pretty much the end. There was no like fine line between, oh, is this the second finest known? Is this the finest known? It was like, is it a gem or is it not? So this is a coin that is totally, the narrative has totally been changed by third party certification.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it. The coin has a distinctively different look to it, even though the design is much the same. It's a flatter strike, although above average strikes do exist. but many of them are heavily abraded. They've always been relegated to sacks of $1,000 face, so it's hard to find actually the higher grade ones. But choice, I think, would be an average grade for it. Um, Certainly one of the easiest coins to find. Uh, the high price would be $99, so it's the least expensive of our group. A low price of 44 and an average of 67. And let's just take a look at that 44 coin. Well, it had a black spot on the obverse right here, right there. So
Liberty
kind
had
of
a cavity.
yeah, it that kind of looks like black mold in a way too. Um, but so eye appeal is everything with that. And what I found with 1921s and the D's and the S's from the same year, it's always interesting to look at the differences because um, you can find good luster coins and you can find bad luster coins, first strike issues, and some not so first strike issues. So be patient and the right coin will find you.
So we've gone through 22 coins for this Philadelphia set, taking you from 1878 to 1921 with some really kind of cool and interesting dates in there. We've gone over some mintages. A few things I want to have you keep in mind as you're looking at this Morgan dollar set. You're looking at coins that were made in the 19th century to 1921, 1878 to 1921. You're looking at coins with mintages. So in Philadelphia alone, just on this list, low mintages in a couple million, up to 44 million, but typically under 10 million for many of these dates. You can look at the amount of money you're going to spend to build this set and the fun you're going to have going to shows, looking at different coins, selecting the ones that fit your taste and your personality. And you're going to spend almost the same amount of money that you would spend buying 22 different dates of American Silver Eagles. And not only that, but typically those American Silver Eagles are going to be struck at higher mintages. They're going to be they're going to be out there at a higher state of preservation and a higher state of survival rate. You don't really see Silver Eagles being melted down right and left. These Morgan dollars may have a mintage of 8 million, but there may only be 400 or 500,000 of them, maybe less of any of these dates. So for the same exact amount of money, you get this connection to history. You get a variety of like looks and styles and feels. You get to learn about strike characteristics and luster and toning and all of these little facets that are going to help you develop as a collector. And you're spending the same amount of money as you'd be spending on putting a certified Silver Eagle 22 coin set together. And I think that alone should be the thing that excites you about going on this journey and making this choice, as opposed to just keeping up with 22 years of mint output of bullion coins.
I think, let me add something. Another perspective when you're going to a show or a dealer to buy something, if you're of the persuasion that you have to have CAC, okay, while that's not bad, in the higher grades, you're going to find that you'll have more options than in the lower grades. And why is that? Is because we do not submit coins at this price level to CAC. In fact, I think CAC actually doesn't take them anymore at this price level. So don't expect to find coins that are CAC and MS63. If you're going to advance your collection beyond the 50 coins and start buying some of those coins in the 90s that cost several thousands of dollars, well, then you're going to find the CAC option. But don't be surprised if you go to a show and you're asking for an 1898 and MS63 CAC, that they're going to be like, whoa, we've never seen one of those before. It's a matter of economics that they just won't exist. So start by looking at the coins in the holder, PCGS, NGC, ANAX, and make your decisions from that point. Educate yourself. the coin will find you.
And absolutely. And there's another thing you may want to keep in mind too. Again, when you're going through this, and it's good if you can lock this down early. Find an aesthetic look that you enjoy, and try your best to match that look across the spectrum of the coins you're buying. If you want an all brilliant set, just set that as an early goal, and have that be part of your criteria. If you want an early die state set, I mean, that's going to definitely be if you really want to challenge yourself, that's a challenge. But just kind of set that criteria. If you like toners, like go for a toner set, if your idea is that irrespective of whether one coin looks like the next coin, that you just want coins that you look at and they just make you smile. And maybe for your 1903, you have a completely silver one with no abrasions, and with that doesn't have any toning on it, but it has that sort of that hue Russ was talking about. But you really like it, like it's just super clean. And then maybe for your 1886, you got one with some bag toning or whatever. Like whatever your criteria is, just try to establish that early so that you're not just grabbing coins. Like there's so many of these available. You don't need to just grab coins to finish your set. And I mean, if that was the case, you might as well, just get your budget, grab whatever you're going to say. I need call someone up and say, I want all these dates, and here's a check for 4,000 and send them to me. But that's not really collecting at that point. That's really just buying things. So if you're really going to collect it, just set your goal, think about it, do a little bit of homework before you go out and buy the coins. I mean, this isn't high stakes poker. I mean, this is a 22 coin set at about $120 a coin, maybe. But set these goals for yourself. It's like it's almost like by setting limitations on what you're trying to do, you hone those particular skills. It's like when the Beatles recorded "Let It Be," they didn't want to do overdubs. They wanted to record an album with limitations because that's like how they developed as artists. So
you have a very limited downside risk to this.
That's right.
I mean, $125 coin can probably be liquidated for 110.
Right.
So you have a $15 handling fee for the education, and boy, there's no better education than actually putting your money out for a coin and owning it, and then all of a sudden realizing you found a better one, and having lost $15 in the process, all things being equal. So that's definitely not gambling.
Right.
You said.
Well, like I said, I have friends who've lost much more than that on bad coin buys. So, yeah. And I'm sure you've had your share of things that you wish you could have taken a mulligan on yourself.
I learned from those experiences.
So, all right, Russ. Well, we'll be back in a couple of days. We'll do, I guess on Wednesday we'll film our next one, and then on Friday we'll film our last one, and then we'll be good to go.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good one, Russ. Thanks.
Be well.